I just found out my wife secretly sold our family home for $350, $0, and split the proceeds with her affair partner, then filed for divorce claiming I abandoned her. Now she's trying to take everything, including my retirement fund and our business assets worth over $1 million, and I'm left questioning everything I thought was real. I never thought I'd be the guy to get blindsided like this. Everything seemed fine, or at least I thought it did. My wife, Emily, always came across as a bit of a bitchy, high-maintenance type, but I figured that was just her personality. She was beautiful, demanding, and often manipulative, but I loved her, or at least I thought I did. We'd been married for nearly 10 years, and for most of that time, I believed we had a solid, if complicated, life together. That was until I started noticing small things that didn't add up, little lies, unexplained absences, strange text messages that she quickly deleted or brushed off. It all started a few months ago when I came home early from work unexpectedly. I work in finance, so I'm pretty good at reading people, and I could sense something was off. Emily was unusually tense, and she seemed nervous whenever I asked about her day. That day, I found her phone buzzing nonstop, texts from some guy named Jake, who kept calling her babe and asking when they could see each other again. I didn't say anything at first. I just watched her trying to keep calm, but inside I was boiling. I had this gut feeling that something was wrong, but I kept telling myself it was probably nothing. The real shocker came about 2 weeks later. I was going through some of our financial documents trying to get a handle on our expenses, and I stumbled upon a strange transfer. It was a wire transfer of $350, $0 from our joint account to an account I didn't recognize. I double-checked everything, my heart pounding, and then I looked closer. The account belonged to a woman named Lisa, who I later found out was Emily's friend from work. But the thing is, I knew Lisa. She's a bitchy, manipulative woman who's always been jealous of Emily. Why would Emily send her that kind of money? And more importantly, why hadn't Emily told me she was selling the house? I started digging deeper. I looked at our bank statements, our property deeds, anything I could find. That's when I discovered the house was gone, sold just like that. No warning, no discussion. I called our real estate agent and she confirmed that Emily had signed the papers and the house was sold for $350, $0. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. All those years, all the memories we built there, just wiped out in a single transaction. I couldn't believe it. Emily had lied about everything and I was left standing there completely blindsided. I confronted her that night. I didn't hold back. I showed her the bank transfer, the sale documents, everything I'd found. Her face twisted into this cruel, bitchy smirk. She lied, of course, said she was just trying to help me pay off some debts that she'd been planning to tell me but didn't get around to it. She claimed she'd been saving the money for something special. I asked her what the hell that was, and she looked me straight in the eyes and said she'd been thinking about our future, which I knew was a lie. She'd been screwing around, I was sure of it. The way she looked at me, the way she dismissed my questions, everything was a lie and I could feel my blood boiling. The thing is, I knew she was lying. I could see it in her eyes. She's always been good at manipulation, but I'd seen her lie too many times before. The more she talked, the more I realized she'd been planning this for a while. She wanted out and she'd sold the house to fund her affair with Jake. I was furious, hurt, and completely betrayed. How could she do this? How could she take everything we built, our home, our life, our future, and just throw it away like it was nothing? I felt like I was losing my mind. The woman I loved, the woman I married, turned out to be a liar and a cheater, and that's just the beginning of what's to come. After that confrontation, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. The house was gone, the money was gone, and my wife, Emily, was still there, acting like she hadn't just betrayed me in the worst way possible. I kept replaying everything in my head. The lies, the secret meetings, the way she dismissed my concerns as if I was just some inconvenience. It was like I'd been living in a nightmare and I didn't know how to wake up. The next few days were a blur. I started digging through our financial records, trying to figure out what else she'd hidden. That's when I discovered she'd already filed for divorce. She claimed I'd abandoned her, said I'd been distant and unresponsive, which was a load of crap. I was just blindsided, trying to process everything. But the divorce papers were there, filled out and ready to be filed. It was like she was making sure she took everything, our assets, our retirement fund, even our business. I found out she had been secretly transferring money out of our accounts for months, funneling it into her own accounts, and I had no idea until I looked closer. What really set me off was the fact that she'd already hired a lawyer. I called her lawyer, a slick guy named Mark, and he told me Emily was claiming I'd been emotionally unavailable and that I'd abandoned her. That was her story. She was the victim and I was the villain. But I knew better. I knew she'd been planning this for a while. She'd been sneaking around, selling the house behind my back, and now she was trying to strip me of everything I had. I felt sick thinking about it. All those years, all that effort, and she was just throwing it away for some guy named Jake and her own selfish needs. I decided I had to fight back. I couldn't let her get away with this. I started planning my revenge, but not in some petty way. I wanted her to feel the loss, the betrayal, the pain she'd caused me. I knew she was a bitchy, manipulative woman who loved to twist everything to her advantage, so I had to be smart. I needed proof, hard evidence, that would show her true colors and expose her lies. I started secretly recording conversations, gathering bank statements, and reaching out to people who knew her secrets. I was determined not to let her walk away with everything without a fight. Meanwhile, Emily was busy painting herself as the victim. She told her friends she was finally free from a cold, distant husband who abandoned her. She even lied about me cheating, which was laughable because I'd never done anything like that. But she knew how to spin a story. She's always been good at lying, twisting facts, and making herself look like the innocent party. It was infuriating. I knew I had to be careful. If I wanted to win, I had to play this game smarter than she did. The worst part was the emotional toll. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and angry. Every time I thought about the house, the money, the life I thought I had, everything was falling apart. I was questioning everything I believed about her, about us. How could she do this? How could she sell our home, split the proceeds with some guy, and then turn around and file for divorce, claiming I was the one who abandoned her? The unfairness of it all was suffocating. I couldn't understand her motives. Was it just greed? Lust? Or was she really that bitchy and manipulative that she'd destroy everything we built for her own selfish reasons? I didn't have the answers yet, but I knew I had to be ready for whatever was coming next. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into gathering evidence and planning my next move. I couldn't just sit around and let her walk away with everything: our house, our savings, our business assets worth over $1 million, and even my retirement fund. I had to fight, not just for what was rightfully mine, but to make her understand she couldn't manipulate her way out of this. I wasn't going to let her turn me into some pawn in her game. One day, I found out she was planning to move out of the apartment she had been secretly renting behind my back. I discovered it through a tip from a friend who saw her packing up her things. That was the final push. I knew she was trying to run away from the mess she created, but I wasn't going to let her. I decided I needed to do something drastic, something that would make her regret everything she'd done. I wanted her to see the damage she caused, not just to me but to herself. I started by hiring a private investigator. It was a calculated move. I needed to know exactly where she was, who she was with, and what she was up to. Turns out she was meeting Jake, the guy she'd been sneaking around with, at a fancy hotel downtown. They'd been seeing each other for months, and she'd even introduced him to her friends as her business partner. I couldn't believe how she lied so effortlessly. I had recordings of her talking about their business meetings, which, of course, was code for sex and cheating. It was disgusting, but it was evidence I needed. With this information, I crafted my plan. I wasn't just going to confront her and demand everything back. I wanted to hit her where it hurt. I knew she loved her money and her reputation, so I decided to make her feel the loss. I contacted the lawyer I'd hired, and we started preparing to fight her in court. I also contacted the real estate agent who handled the house sale. I had her sign a sworn affidavit confirming she sold the house without my knowledge and split the proceeds with Jake. The more I uncovered, the more I realized how deep her treachery went. Meanwhile, Emily kept spinning her web of lies. She told her friends I was abandoning her, that I was an emotional wreck, and that she was just trying to start fresh. She painted herself as the victim, claiming, "I was too busy with work and didn't care, but I knew the truth. I knew she was lying, manipulating, and scheming behind my back. Every time I saw her, I felt a surge of rage. How could she be so selfish, so bitchy? She had no remorse, no guilt, only her own greed and desire to control everything. I also started secretly recording her conversations. I wanted to catch her in her lies, to have undeniable proof. One night, I followed her to the hotel where she met Jake. I waited outside in my car, listening to her talk on the phone, laughing about how she was getting everything she wanted. That's when I realized this wasn't just about cheating or selling the house. It was about her trying to wipe me out completely, take everything I had built and leave me with nothing. That's when I knew I couldn't let her get away with it. The emotional toll was heavy. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious. I kept questioning myself. How did I miss all this? Was I really so blind? But deep down, I knew I had to stay strong. I had to be smart. I couldn't let her manipulate her way out of this mess. I was determined to fight for what was mine, to expose her lies, and to make her see that she couldn't just walk away and start over without consequences. I was angry, yes, but also resolved. I'd be damned if she took everything I worked for and left me with nothing. By now, I had enough evidence to make her pay. The recordings, the affidavits, the bank statements, they all painted a clear picture of her betrayal and deception. I knew I needed to act fast before she managed to drain everything, especially the retirement fund and our business assets. I contacted my lawyer, Mark, and we started preparing for a serious fight in court. I wanted to make sure she couldn't get away with selling the house behind my back, splitting the money with Jake, and then trying to claim she was the victim. One evening, I decided to confront her directly, not just with words but with proof. I called her at her hotel, pretending I wanted to talk things over, and told her I had everything laid out. Her voice was cold, dismissive. She's always been good at playing the victim. She told me I was overreacting, that I was paranoid, that she hadn't done anything wrong. I calmly told her I had recordings of her talking about Jake, about the house sale, and about her plans to leave me with nothing. I told her I knew about the secret accounts, the money she transferred, and her attempts to hide everything. Her reaction was priceless. She tried to deny everything, but I had her cornered. She started yelling, calling me crazy, jealous, and controlling. She even tried to turn it around, saying I was the one cheating, that I was emotionally distant, and that she had to find comfort elsewhere. I just laughed and told her she was full of shit. She's always been the bitchy, manipulative type, and I could see her losing control. I knew I had her rattled, and that was exactly what I wanted. The next day, I took the evidence straight to my lawyer. We filed a motion to freeze her assets, including the retirement fund and the business holdings. I also contacted the court to get an emergency order to prevent her from selling or transferring any more assets. I wanted to make sure she couldn't wipe out everything before the court could decide who gets what. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and rage. Satisfaction that I was finally fighting back, and rage that she'd gone this far, selling our home, splitting the money, and trying to destroy me financially. Meanwhile, Emily was trying to spin her story to her friends and family. She told everyone I'd been a terrible husband, that I'd abandoned her emotionally, and that she was just trying to start over. She claimed I was jealous and controlling, but I knew the truth. I knew she'd been cheating, lying, and scheming for months. I had the proof, and I was ready to use it. One day I went to our old house, well, what was left of it. It was sold, but I wanted to see if there was anything left. The new owners had already moved in, but I found a small box in the backyard with some of our old photos and personal stuff. It hit me hard. That house was more than just walls. It was our memories, our life together. And now it was gone, sold to some stranger just like that. I felt a deep ache in my chest. I realized how much she had destroyed, our trust, our future, everything we built. But I also knew I couldn't let her win, not like this. I decided to fight dirty if I had to. I contacted some of her friends, shared the evidence I had, and explained what she'd been doing behind my back. I wanted everyone to see her for what she really was, a manipulative, bitchy woman who'd sell out her own marriage for greed and some guy's sex. If she thought she could just walk away and start fresh, she was dead wrong. I was going to make her pay, and I was going to make sure she never did this to anyone again. I had nothing left but my resolve, and I was determined to take her down. The court date was set, and I knew this was my last shot to stop her from taking everything. Our money, our business, the retirement fund, and whatever else she thought she could squeeze out of me. I felt a strange calm, mixed with raging anger as I prepared my case. Everything I had uncovered, every lie she'd told, every dollar she'd siphoned off behind. My back, this was going to come out in court. I was ready to fight with everything I had. When the day finally arrived, Emily showed up looking smug, like she already knew she'd won. She was dressed to impress, acting like the innocent victim, but I saw right through her. I had my evidence, printouts, recordings, affidavits, and I handed it all over to the judge. Her face went pale when she saw the proof of her secret accounts, the house sale, and the transfer of funds to Jake. I could see her trying to regain her composure, but it was too late. The judge listened carefully, and I could tell he was surprised by the extent of her treachery. The courtroom was tense. Emily kept trying to spin her lies, claiming I'd been emotionally abusive, that I'd abandoned her, that she was just trying to make a fresh start. But I had her dead to rights. I told the court how she secretly sold the house, split the proceeds with her affair partner, and then tried to file for divorce claiming I'd abandoned her. I explained how she'd been secretly transferring money out of our accounts, planning to leave me with nothing. I presented the recordings, the affidavits, and the bank statements. It was clear she'd been scheming for months. The judge didn't buy her story. He ordered a freeze on her assets and appointed a financial evaluator to scrutinize her accounts. He also ordered her to return the money from the house sale, and he was clear that her claims of abandonment were unfounded. The court recognized her betrayal, and I could see her frustration boiling over. She tried to argue, to manipulate her way out of it, but it was no use. The evidence was too overwhelming. As the proceedings went on, I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd won the battle, but I knew the war wasn't over. Emily was furious, and I could tell she was already planning her next move. She's always been bitchy, manipulative, and relentless when she wants something. But I was done playing her game. I decided to push for full custody of our assets and to demand she pay back what she had stolen. I wanted her to understand that betrayal has consequences. After the court session, I felt drained but victorious. I knew she'd try to come after me again, but I was prepared. I'd exposed her lies, stopped her from draining my savings, and secured my future. I realized just how much I'd trusted her, how I'd believed she was the woman I married, the woman I loved. Turns out, she was just a bitchy, manipulative schemer who'd sell out everything for sex, greed, and her own selfish needs. I learned a lot from this experience, about trusting too easily, about the importance of protecting myself, and about how ruthless some people can be when they want something. Now I'm rebuilding. I've cut her out of my life entirely, and I'm focusing on moving forward. The house is gone, but I've got my dignity and my money back. I don't know what the future holds, but I do know this. Never again will I let someone like her manipulate me or destroy what I've worked so hard for. That betrayal taught me that sometimes you have to fight dirty to protect what's yours, and I will never, ever let anyone take that away from me again. Looking back now, I realize how much I underestimated her. Emily was always the bitchy, manipulative type, but I thought I knew her thought. She was just high maintenance, not capable of tearing our life apart like she did. The worst part is I trusted her. I believed in the promise of our future and the vows we made. But her actions proved she was willing to sell out everything for sex, greed, and her own selfish needs. She's a master manipulator, a liar, and a user. I saw her true colors, and it was like waking up from a nightmare. Breaking free from her grip was the hardest thing I've ever done. The betrayal hit me hard, losing our home, our savings, the business I built from scratch. It felt like she'd stolen my entire life, and for a while I wondered if I'd ever recover. But I realized something important. I was better off without her. The person I thought I knew was just a facade. She was a bitchy, scheming woman who'd sell her own soul for a few pieces of silver. Once I saw that clearly, I knew I couldn't let her win. The court case was a turning point. When the judge ordered her assets frozen and recognized her betrayal, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. Justice was slow, but it was real. I learned that even in the face of betrayal, the truth has a way of coming out. I also learned that sometimes you have to fight dirty to protect what's yours. The evidence I gathered, recordings, affidavits, bank statements, was my armor. It proved beyond any doubt that she was the villain, not me. Now I'm slowly rebuilding my life. I've cut her out completely. The pain of betrayal still lingers, but I refuse to let it define me. I want to move on, to trust again someday, but I'll never forget what she did. That experience taught me the importance of protecting myself, of being vigilant, and of never trusting blindly. I hope anyone reading this learns from my story. Watch out for the signs, keep your guard up, and never let anyone manipulate you into thinking you're the crazy one when they're the ones lying and scheming. So here's the thing. If you're ever in a situation where your partner starts acting strange, hiding things, or lying about money, don't ignore it. Dig deeper. Trust your instincts. Because when it all falls apart, it hits hard. But if you're prepared, if you gather evidence and stand your ground, you can come out of it stronger. I did. And I'll never let anyone take away what I've worked for again. The pain is real, but so is the power to fight back, and in the end, that's what saved me.